The thing standing at the edge of my campfire light had my brother's voice, but my brother was 300 miles away in Flagstaff. I'm a night fisherman, have been for going on 6 years now. There's something about the stillness of a lake after dark that clears my head better than any therapy ever could. I work construction during the day, hot Arizona sun beating down on job sites. So when the weekend comes, I pack my truck and head north to the cooler elevations where the trout bite best after sunset. This happened in late September of 2023 at Lake Mary. It's about 20 miles southeast of Flagstaff, elevation 7,000 feet, surrounded by ponderosa pine and thick scrub oak. The lake sits in a natural basin with steep rocky slopes on the north end and gentler meadow shores to the south. I'd been coming here since I was 16, knew every inlet and gravel bar. I left Phoenix around 3 p.m. on a Friday, gave myself plenty of time to set up camp before dark. My gear was simple: 8-foot fly rod, chest waders, headlamp, camp stove, sleeping bag rated for 20 degrees. I also carried a Glock 19 in a chest holster. Black bears are common up there, and I'd had a close call with the sow cubs the previous spring. The drive up the Beeline Highway was uneventful. I stopped in Payson for gas and a sandwich, then continued north through the Mogollon Rim. The temperature dropped 15 degrees as I climbed in elevation. By the time I reached the lake, the sun was low, casting long shadows through the pines. I parked at the south access point, a small dirt lot with a boat ramp and a single vault toilet. There were no other vehicles. Midweek after Labor Day meant I'd have the place to myself. Perfect. I hauled my gear down a narrow trail that hugged the shoreline. About half a mile in, I found my usual spot, a small clearing with a fire ring someone had built from lake stones. The ground was level, covered in pine needles. A massive fallen log provided a natural windbreak and a place to sit. I set up my tent first. Then I gathered firewood at dead branches from the forest floor. Nothing green. By the time I had a fire going, it was nearly dark. The temperature had dropped into the 40s. I rigged my fly rod with a black woolly bugger, a good pattern for night fishing. Then I pulled on my waders and headed to the water's edge. The lake was glass calm. My headlamp beam cut across the surface as I waded out to my knees. The first hour was slow. I worked the shoreline methodically, casting parallel to the bank, letting the fly sink, stripping it back in short pulls. Around 9 p.m., I hooked into a nice rainbow, maybe 14 inches. I landed it, took a quick photo, released it back into the black water. That's when I first felt like something was off. I can't explain it exactly. It was like the forest had gotten quieter. The wind had died completely. No owl calls, no rustling in the underbrush, just silence. I looked back toward my campfire. The orange glow was comforting, about 50 yards away through the trees. I could see my tent and my backpack hanging from a branch. Everything looked normal. I made a few more casts, then decided to take a break. I was cold. My hands were stiff, and I wanted coffee. I waded back to shore, secured my rod against a tree, and walked back to camp. The fire had burned down to coals. I added a few small branches and it flared back to life. I filled my titanium pot with water from my Nalgene and set it on the coals to boil. Then I sat on the log and warmed my hands. That's when I heard it. Tyler. My name. Spoken from somewhere in the darkness beyond the firelight. Soft, almost a whisper. I stood up fast, a hand going to my chest holster. Hello? I called out. Nothing. I grabbed my headlamp from where I'd left it on my pack and clicked it on. Swept the beam through the trees. Pine trunks. Shadows. Nothing moving. If someone's out there, this isn't funny, I said. louder this time. The water in my pot started to boil. The sound seemed too loud in the silence. I stayed standing, eyes scanning the darkness for a full minute. Then I convinced myself it was nothing. Maybe an owl. Maybe my imagination. Maybe I hadn't heard anything at all. I made my instant coffee and sat back down, but I couldn't shake the unease. Every small sound made me flinch. A pine cone falling, a branch settling, my own breathing. I decided to call it a night on the fishing. I'd get a good sleep and try again at dawn. I poured out the rest of my coffee, kicked dirt over the fire, and crawled into my tent. I kept my headlamp on, kept the Glock next to my sleeping bag. Sleep came slowly. I woke to my name again. Tyler. Tyler. Help me. It was louder this time, more urgent, and it sounded exactly like my brother Jake. I sat up fast, heart hammering. My watch said 2:17 a.m. Jake, I called out. Tyler, I'm hurt. Help. The voice was coming from the direction of the lake. I unzipped my tent and stepped out. The fire was dead. The forest was pitch black except for the stars overhead. I turned on my headlamp. Jake, where are you? By the water. I fell. Help me. My brother had no reason to be here. He was in Flagstaff. He hadn't said anything about driving down, but the voice was perfect. Same tone, same speech pattern. Even the way he said my name stressed the first syllable. Tyler. I grabbed my Glock and started toward the water, following the narrow path. My headlamp beam bounced with each step. I'm coming. Keep talking so I can find you. Hurry, the voice said. Then it added, it hurts. Something in my gut twisted the way it said that last part. It hurts. Too flat, no emotion, like someone reading lines. I stopped walking. Jake, what hurts? Where are you hurt? Silence. Jake, more silence. Then I heard footsteps, not from ahead of me by the water, but from behind me, back toward my camp. I spun around, gun raised, light cutting through the darkness. Nothing, but I heard it again. Footsteps, circling, staying just outside my light. I know you're there, I said. Show yourself. The footsteps stopped. Then my brother's voice again, but this time it came from a completely different direction, from up the slope to my right. Tyler, why won't you help me? That's when I knew. Whatever this was, it wasn't Jake. I backed toward the water, keeping my headlamp and gun pointed upslope. My heart was slamming against my ribs. Every shadow looked like it was moving. Tyler, the voice said again, but this time it was wrong. Too deep, stretched out. Ty, lair. I saw movement, a shape, tall, moving between the trees with a weird jerking motion. Not walking, not running, something in between. It stepped into my light. I wish I could say it looked like a wolf or a coyote. That would have made sense. But what I saw was worse because it was almost human. It stood on two legs, maybe 7 feet tall. Its body was covered in patchy gray fur and bare skin. The head was elongated, like someone had grabbed a human skull and stretched it. The eyes caught my light and reflected back yellow-green, and it was smiling. Its mouth was too wide, filled with too many teeth, but it was definitely smiling. Found you, it said in Jake's voice. I fired 3 rounds, center mass. The sound was deafening in the quiet forest. The thing jerked back and then made a sound I can't describe. Not a scream, not a howl, something liquid and wrong. I turned and ran straight into the lake. The cold water hit me like a wall, but I kept going, wading out until I was waist deep and chest deep. My headlamp died. The shock of the cold. I don't know. I stood there in the darkness, in the freezing water, the gun held above my head, for I don't know how long. Could have been 5 minutes, could have been an hour. Eventually, I saw the sky starting to lighten. Dawn had made it. I waited until there was enough light to see the shore clearly. Then I moved, fast. I got my gear, didn't bother with the tent or sleeping bag, just grabbed my keys and ran to my truck. I was back on the highway by 6 a.m., shaking so hard I had to pull over twice. I called Jake from Payson. He answered on the second ring, groggy, annoyed. I'd woken him up. He'd been home all night, asleep in his apartment, 300 miles away. 2 weeks later, I went back. Daylight, with 2 friends. We found my campsite. The tent was shredded, long claw marks through the nylon. My sleeping bag was gone. We found tracks, too big to be canine, leading from the camp into the forest and stopping at a rocky outcrop. The county sheriff took my report but didn't seem interested. He said it was probably a bear. I didn't argue. I still fish, but never at night, never alone, and never without checking who's actually with me before I respond to my name. If you're out there and something calls to you in a familiar voice, especially at night, especially when you're alone, don't answer. Don't go looking. Get to water if you can, or your vehicle, or any structure with a door that locks. Trust your gut when it tells you something's wrong. And if anyone asks why I won't fish Lake Mary anymore, well, now you know. If this helps even one person avoid what I went through, then sharing it was worth it. Stay safe out there. And if you've got your own stories like this, I'd love to hear them. Sometimes knowing we're not alone in this makes it easier to process. I watched something climb the tower stairs, then move like my supervisor. But the radio said he was still 40 miles out. I work for the Forest Service, fire lookout. It's a summer gig I've done for 3 seasons now, May through September, living alone in a 15 by 15-foot cabin perched 70 feet up a steel tower in the Gila National Forest. Most people think it sounds lonely. I think it sounds perfect. The tower is designated as Lookout Station 12, coordinates 33.4 north, 108.7 west, elevation 8,200 feet. The access road is 12 miles of rough dirt, 4-wheel drive only. My nearest neighbor is another lookout, a woman named Sarah, stationed 16 miles northwest. We check in by radio every morning at 0700. This happened during the second week of July 2024. I had been up there for 6 weeks already, seen plenty of lightning storms, reported a few smoke columns, but mostly just logged wildlife sightings and enjoyed the solitude. The fire danger was rated moderate. We'd had decent rain in June. My daily routine was simple. Wake at dawn, scan the horizon with binoculars, log weather conditions, check in with dispatch, read, make meals on my propane stove, scan again at noon, more reading, sunset scan, sleep. The tower had everything I needed: COT, storage, emergency supplies, solar panels for my radio and laptop. Water came from a cistern that caught roof runoff. The weird stuff started on a Tuesday. Nothing dramatic, just small things. I was doing my noon scan when I saw movement on the access road. Dust cloud, vehicle approaching. That was unusual. Dispatch hadn't mentioned anyone coming out. I grabbed my radio. Lookout 12 to base. Go ahead, 12. The dispatcher was a guy named Ron, former hotshot, Good people. I've got a vehicle inbound on my access road. Are we expecting anyone? Pause. -12. No scheduled maintenance or visits. Can you identify? I raise my binoculars. The vehicle is still about 4 miles out, kicking up dust on the switchbacks. Too far out. I'll update when they get closer. Copy that. Stay on channel. I watched the vehicle for another 10 minutes. It was getting closer, but something felt off. The dust cloud seemed wrong. Too low. Too dispersed. Like the vehicle was moving slower than it should be for the amount of dust. Then it stopped. Just stopped in the middle of the road, about a mile from my tower base. I keyed the radio. Base. Vehicle has stopped. Roughly 1 mile south of my position. Still can't make out type or color. Can you see anybody? I scanned with the binoculars. The dust was settling. I could see something. Dark shape. But I couldn't tell if it was a truck, an ATV, or what. Negative. Dust is still too thick. Keep me posted. 5 minutes went by. 10. The dust settled completely. The road was empty. No vehicle. Nothing. I blinked. Looked again. Scanned the entire road with binoculars. Nothing. Base, this is 12. Go ahead. The vehicle's gone. Mean, there's nothing there. Road is clear. Long pause. You sure you saw something? Affirmative. Definite dust cloud. Something was coming up the road. Might have turned around, headed back down. Maybe, but I didn't believe that. I'd watched it the whole time. It had stopped and not turned around. All right, well, let us know if anything else develops. Copy. I set the radio down, feeling uneasy. Probably just heat shimmer. Optical illusion. The afternoon sun can play tricks at this elevation. I tried to go back to my book, but couldn't focus. I kept looking at the road, at the forest, at nothing. Sunset came. I did my final scan, logged conditions, made dinner, tried the book again. Around 9 p.m. I gave up and decided to get some sleep. That's when I heard the footsteps on the stairs. The tower is all metal. 70 feet of steel framework with stairs wrapping around the outside. When someone climbs it, you hear it, the ringing clang of boots on metal. It's unmistakable. Clang, clang, clang. Slow, methodical, climbing. I sat up fast, grabbed my flashlight. The tower has windows on all 4 sides. It gives a 360 view. I went to the south window, the one facing the stairs, and looked down. Nothing. The stairs were empty, but I could still hear the footsteps. Clang, clang, clang. Getting closer. I grabbed the radio. Base, this is 12. Static. The radio was dead. That made no sense. Solar panels had been charging all day. Should have been full power. The footsteps continued. Clang, clang, clang. I grabbed my headlamp and strapped it on and opened the trapdoor that leads down to the landing. Cool air rushed up. I shined my light down the stairs. Empty, but the sound was right there, right below me. Then it stopped. Complete silence. I waited, heart hammering, light pointed down, for a full minute. Nothing. I was about to close the trapdoor when I heard my supervisor's voice. Hey Jackson, it's Tom. You up there? Tom. Tom Bridger, district supervisor. I'd met with him twice this season. Good guy. Early 60s. Former Marine. But Tom wasn't scheduled to visit. Tom? I called down. Yeah. Sorry for the late visit. Got some new equipment for you. Mind if I come up? Something felt wrong. Tom would have radioed first. Would have come during daylight. Would have made his presence known before climbing. How'd you get here? I called down. I didn't see a vehicle. Parked at the bottom. Walked up. Radio's been spotty. Didn't want to bother you if you were sleeping. That made sense, sort of, but the feeling in my gut said otherwise. Just a second, I said. Let me get some lights on. Sure thing. I closed the trapdoor, locked it. It's a simple latch, but it felt necessary. Then I went to the south window and looked down, trying to see the landing platform. My headlamp beam wasn't strong enough. I grabbed my spotlight, a million candle power rechargeable, and pointed it down. The landing was empty. But I heard Tom's voice again, this time from the north side of the tower. Jackson, you gonna let me in or what? Impossible. The stairs only go up one side. He couldn't have moved to the north without me hearing him circle the tower. I ran to the north window, pointed the spotlight down. There was something on the stairs, about 20 feet down, climbing. It was shaped like a person. 2 legs, 2 arms, head, but the proportions were wrong. The arms too long, the head too large, and the way it moved, each step was a jerking lunge. Jackson, it said in Tom's voice, let me up. I stumbled backwards, knocked over my water bottle. I grabbed the radio again. I tried dispatch, still dead. I tried Sarah's frequency. Lookout 7, this is 12. Sarah, if you can hear me, I need help. Nothing. The thing on the stairs was still climbing. Clang, clang, clang. I could hear it breathing now. Wet, raspy, wrong. I looked around the cabin for anything I could use as a weapon. Fire extinguisher, propane tank, shovel. Nothing that felt adequate against whatever was coming up those stairs. And then I remembered the emergency flare kit, required equipment, mounted by the door. I grabbed it, broke the seal, and pulled out a road flare, the red kind that burns at 2,000 degrees. And the footsteps reached the landing, right outside my door. Jackson, last chance, open up. The voice was still Tom's, but there was an edge to it now. Anger, hunger, something primal underneath the words. The door handle started to turn. I'd locked it, deadbolt, but I watched the metal handle rotate anyway. I struck the flare. It ignited with a hiss, bright red flame, acrid smoke. The handle stopped turning. Sulfur, the thing said, not in Tom's voice anymore. Something else, multiple voices layered. Clever. Silence. Then footsteps, going back down. Clang, 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 descending. I kept that flare burning for 3 hours until it sputtered out. Then I immediately lit another one. Dawn came slow. When there was enough light, I looked out the windows. The stairs were empty, the landing clear. The forest below showed no movement. I tried the radio. It worked. Full power. Like it had never died. Base, this is Lookout 12. Morning 12. Go ahead. Ron sounded chipper. Normal. Request immediate replacement. I need to come down. Everything okay up there? No, I need to leave. Today. There was a pause. Copy that. We'll get someone out there by 1400. Can you hold until then? Affirmative. Tom himself drove out. The real Tom. I watched him arrive in daylight. Watched him climb the stairs. Normal pace. Normal proportions. He looked concerned. Jackson, what happened? I told him everything. He didn't interrupt. Just listened. When I finished, he nodded slowly. You're not the first, he said. We've had reports from other lookouts, always isolated towers, always at night. Most people don't report it because they think they'll sound crazy. You believe me? Yeah, I do. Had something similar happen to me back in '98. Different tower. Same kind of thing. Something pretending to be someone I knew. What is it? He shook his head. Don't know. Old-timers call them mimics. Navajo folks have their own name for them. Whatever they are, They seemed drawn to people alone in high places. Why didn't anyone warn me? Would you have believed it, or would you have just requested a different assignment? He had a point. I packed my gear. Tom drove me back to the district office. I submitted my resignation that afternoon. Sarah, the other lookout, she finished the season, said she never had any problems. Maybe it just fixated on me. Maybe it moves around. I don't know. What I do know is this: if you're alone somewhere remote and someone shows up unannounced, especially at night, don't let them in without verification. Radio check, photo confirmation, something. Trust your instincts when they scream that something's off. And if you hear footsteps but can't see anyone making them, that's your cue to get somewhere safe with a locked door until sunrise. I work in a hardware store now, ground level, surrounded by people, and I sleep a lot better. The light from my friend's helmet appeared in a passage we hadn't explored, 30 minutes after I'd watched him leave through the entrance. I'm a caver. That's what we call ourselves. Not spelunkers. That's tourist talk. I've been exploring cave systems in New Mexico for 8 years. Started when I was 19, got certified in vertical techniques, joined the local grotto. Most weekends you'll find me underground mapping, unexplored passages, or pushing leads. This happened in March of 2023 at a cave system near Carlsbad, not the famous caverns in the tourist one. This was BLM land about 18 miles northwest. The cave had been known to cavers for decades, but never fully mapped. My buddy Kent and I had been working on surveying the lower levels for about 6 months. Kent and I went way back, met in community college. Both of us were geology nerds who preferred rocks to people. He was methodical, careful, exactly the kind of person you want as a cave partner. We'd done maybe 40 trips together without incident. The plan was simple. Enter at 0900, survey a section of passage we discovered on our last trip, exit by 1500. We'd filed our trip plan with the grotto secretary and Kent's girlfriend. Standard safety protocol. The entrance was a 30-foot pit requiring rope work. We rigged it quickly, both of us comfortable with the system. I went down first. Kent followed. At the bottom was a low crawl, maybe 50 feet long. That opened into a walking passage. The cave maintained a constant 57 degrees year-round, humidity near 100%. We moved through familiar territory, past formation rooms we'd named on previous trips. The cathedral, the maze, the pinch, our survey station markers. Bits of flagging tape guided us deeper. After about 40 minutes, we reached our previous limit, a junction where 3 passages diverged. We'd surveyed the left and center passages already. Today was for the right passage, the one we'd been saving because it looked promising. Potential for significant extension. Kent set up the first survey station while I sketched the junction in my notebook. Cave surveying is tedious work, measuring distances with a tape, taking compass bearings, recording ceiling height, but it's necessary. Without surveys, caves remain unknown territory. Ready? Kent asked. Yeah, let's see where this goes. The passage was comfortable, 7 feet high, 5 feet wide. Walls were smooth limestone. Floor was mostly level with occasional breakdown, chunks of ceiling that had fallen thousands of years ago. Our helmet lights pushed back the absolute darkness. We surveyed for about 90 minutes. The passage continued straight, gradually sloping down. We found a few small side passages, but they were too tight to enter. Dead ends. Then the main passage opened into a room. Not huge, maybe 30 feet across, but the ceiling vanished into darkness above. Our lights couldn't find it. Big dome, Kent said, playing his light up. We moved into the center of the room. There were 4 passages leading out. We'd come in through one. That left 3 to explore. We've got time for one more, I said, checking my watch. 12:30. Then we should head out. Left passage looks biggest, Kent suggested. Works for me. We set a survey station at the room center and I started toward the left passage. Kent was behind me, reading the compass bearing. That's when we heard it. A sound from one of the other passages, not the one we'd entered from, one of the unexplored ones. A voice, muffled, echoing, but definitely a voice. Kent and I froze. Hello? I called out. No response. There's someone else down here, Kent whispered. Impossible. We're the only ones with access. This cave isn't on any public maps. Then who? Hello? I called louder. This is a private survey trip. Identify yourself. Silence. Then the voice again, clearer this time. Help me. It was male. Young. Panicked. Someone's hurt, Ken said, already moving toward the sound. Wait, something felt wrong. We should be careful. But Ken was already entering the passage where the voice had come from. The right passage. Not the one we'd planned to survey. I followed. What else could I do? The passage narrowed quickly. We had to stoop, then crawl. Kent's light bobbed ahead of me. Hello, he called. Where are you? Keep talking so we can find you. Here, I'm here. I can't move. The voice sounded closer. The crawl opened into another small room, maybe 15 feet across. Our lights swept the space. Empty. Where are you? Kent called. Here. The voice came from above us, from the ceiling. We both looked up. There was a chimney, a vertical shaft, maybe 3 feet wide. Our lights couldn't reach the top. I fell, the voice said. I'm stuck. Please help. Kent looked at me. That's impossible. No one could fit up there. I know, I said quietly. Please. The voice begged. It hurts. What's your name? I called up the chimney. Pause. Jeremy. Please. Help me. How did you get here, Jeremy? I don't remember. I was exploring. I fell. Please. Kent was already digging in his pack. I've got rope. We can do a climb and assist. Kent, wait. I grabbed his arm. Something's not right. Someone's hurt. Maybe. But think about it. How did they get past the entrance pit? We're the only ones with keys to the gate up top. Could have bypassed it. Came in another way. There is no other way. We've checked. Kent pulled his arm free. I'm not leaving someone stuck up there. He started rigging a climb, looping rope through his harness, preparing to ascend the chimney. Please hurry, the voice called down. I'm slipping. Hold on. I'm coming. Kent started up. I watched his light disappear into the narrow shaft. I could hear him grunting with effort, wedging his back against one wall, feet against the other. Classic chimney technique. How far up are you? I called. 20 feet. 30. It keeps going. See anything? No. Just rock. Wait. There's a ledge. I think I see. He stopped talking. Kent. Silence. Kent. What do you see? Nothing. There's nobody here. What? The chimney opens into a small dome, maybe 40 feet up, but there's no one here. No Jeremy. Nothing. Come back down. My voice was tight. Coming. I heard him descending. Then I heard something else. From the passage we'd come through. Footsteps. Someone moving toward us. I spun around, light cutting through the darkness. Kent emerged from the crawl, walking upright, smiling. Ready to go? He said. But Kent was still in the chimney above me. I could hear him climbing down. "Who are you?" I said, backing against the wall. The thing that looked like Kent cocked its head. "What do you mean? It's me. Come on. Let's get out of here." The real Kent dropped from the chimney, landed beside me, saw his doppelganger. "What the fuck?" he whispered. The fake Kent's smile widened. Too wide. Unnatural. "We should go," it said. But the voice was wrong now. Too deep. Like multiple voices speaking in unison. Then it moved. Not walking, not running. It flowed, impossibly fast, across the room, into the crawl passage. Gone. Kent and I stood there, frozen, for maybe 10 seconds. "Did you see that?" Can't breathe. "Yeah." "What was it?" "I don't know, but we need to leave now." We moved back through the crawl into the larger room, back toward the junction where we'd come from. We were halfway there when we heard my voice ahead of us. "Kent, where are you? I found something. Come here." My voice, perfect imitation, calling for Kent. "Don't answer," I whispered. We kept moving, following our survey stations, our flagging tape, the marks that would lead us out. More voices now, coming from side passages. My voice, Kent's voice, other voices we didn't recognize, all calling, all asking us to come help, to come look, to follow. We ignored them all, focused on the route out, the pinch, the maze, the cathedral, getting closer. At the crawl before the entrance pit, we heard something behind us. Not voices, footsteps, lots of them, running, getting closer. "Go, go, go." Kent shoved me forward. I scrambled through the crawl, emerged at the base of the entrance pit, grabbed my ascender, clipped into the rope. Kent came through right behind me. "Climb. Don't look back." I climbed 30 feet, hand over hand, using my ascender, my legs burning, lungs screaming. I could hear Kent below me, climbing fast. I reached the top, hauled myself over the edge, collapsed in the dirt. Sunlight never felt so good. Kent emerged. Seconds later, we pulled the rope up immediately, slammed the gate, locked it. From down in the cave, we heard voices, screaming, not words, just sounds, rage and frustration, then silence. We packed our gear without speaking, drove back to town, filed an incident report with the grotto. Most people didn't believe us, thought we'd gotten disoriented, cave fever, hallucination. But one of the old timers, a guy named Bill, who'd been caving since the 70s, he pulled me aside. "I believe you," he said. "Same thing happened to me in 67. Different cave. Same experience. Things that mimic your voice. Try to lead you deeper." "What are they?" "I don't know. But they hate light, and they can't leave the cave. Whatever they are, they're bound to the darkness." I still cave, but never that system again. We left all our survey equipment down there. Someone else can finish mapping it. If you're ever underground in a cave and you hear someone calling to you, check first. Make sure you can actually see them. Make sure they're real. Because some things live in the deep, dark places, and they know how to sound like the people you trust. Never split up. Never follow voices into unexplored passages. And if something feels wrong, get to the surface. Don't hesitate. The darkness underground goes on forever. But you don't have to. The snowmobile tracks leading away from camp went in a direction we hadn't traveled, and they were made by my machine that was still parked 20 feet from my tent. I'm a winter outdoorsman. Grew up in Minnesota. Spent every winter since I was 12 on snowmobiles. These days, I guide backcountry trips in northern Montana, taking small groups into wilderness areas that are inaccessible except by snow machine. It's good money, December through March, and I love the solitude of winter. This happened in February of 2024. I was running a 3-day trip with two clients, a father and son from Illinois. They'd booked through my website, paid extra for the premium route. We'd be covering about 80 miles through the Flathead National Forest, staying at two different campsites set up earlier in the season. The father was Greg, late 40s, software engineer, out of shape but determined. The son was Austin, early 20s, recent college grad, quiet but competent. Both of them were experienced riders. They'd brought their own gear, helmets, insulated suits, GPS units. We met at the trailhead at 0800 on a Friday. Temperature was 12 degrees, skies clear, fresh snow from 2 nights before, about 6 inches of powder on a solid base. Perfect conditions. I gave them the safety briefing. Stay inside of each other, hand signals for stop and hazard, emergency protocol if someone goes down. We'd be riding for about 4 hours to reach the first camp. I was on a ski-doo expedition, 800cc, cargo sled attached, carrying most of the gear, tents, food, fuel. Greg and Austin were both on Polaris machines, 700s, good sleds for the terrain. The first 2 hours were uneventful. We followed established trails, wide corridors cut through lodgepole pine. The snow was deep, maybe 4 feet total depth, but packed enough for good travel. We stopped once to refuel and warm up. Around 1100, we left the marked trails and started breaking our own path. This was the appeal of the trip. True backcountry. No other riders. Just wilderness and snow. The terrain got more challenging. We climbed elevation, worked through tight timber, crossed a frozen creek. Austin struggled a few times, got his sled stuck in deep powder, but we dug him out and kept moving. By 1300, we reached the first camp, a small clearing I'd marked with GPS coordinates. There was already a platform built, a wooden deck elevated above the snow. I had constructed it the previous month. On top was a canvas wall tent with a wood stove. We unloaded gear and got the stove going. Within 30 minutes, the tent was warm, ice melting from our face shields. I made coffee and heated up chili. Greg and Austin were tired, but in good spirits. "This is incredible," Greg said, looking out at the unbroken snow. "We haven't seen another person all day." "That's the point," I said. Total solitude. We spent the afternoon resting. I split more firewood. Greg took photos. Austin tried ice fishing in the creek, but had no luck. By 1800, it was full dark. Temperature had dropped to 3 degrees. The stove kept the tent comfortable. We ate dinner, played cards, told stories. Around 2100, everyone was ready for sleep. I banked the fire, and we crawled into our sleeping bags. I woke to the sound of a snowmobile engine. My watch said, 2:30. I sat up, confused. Neither Greg nor Austin were riding. They were both asleep in their bags. The sound was outside, idling, then revving. Then it stopped. I unzipped my bag and pulled on my boots, grabbed my headlamp, stepped outside. The cold hit me hard. Clear sky, stars so bright they cast shadows. My breath formed clouds. I looked at our 3 sleds, all parked where we'd left them. Engines cold, covered in frost, but I could still hear an engine, faint now, coming from the forest, south of camp, moving away. I walked to the edge of the clearing and shined my light into the trees. Nothing, just darkness and tree trunks, but definitely an engine sound, getting fainter. Then it stopped. Complete silence. I stood there for maybe 5 minutes, listening, watching, seeing nothing. Eventually, I convinced myself I'd been dreaming, or maybe it was another rider. Someone camped nearby. Unlikely, but possible. I went back inside, back to my sleeping bag. But sleep didn't come easy. Morning came cold and bright, -4 degrees. I got the fire going and started coffee. Greg and Austin woke up stiff but ready to ride. Sleep okay? Greg asked. Yeah, fine. I didn't mention the engine sound. No point worrying them. We packed up camp, um, loaded the sleds, and prepared to head out. The plan was to ride northeast for 3 hours and set up Camp 2, then do a big loop the following day before heading back to the trailhead. I was doing a final check on my cargo sled when Austin called out, "Hey, whose tracks are these?" I walked over. He was pointing at a set of snowmobile tracks leading south from camp. Fresh tracks, definitely made after the last snowfall. Not ours, I said. We came from the west. Must be another rider, Greg suggested. But something felt wrong. The tracks were too close to our camp. They started maybe 20 yards from where we'd slept, like someone had ridden right up to us. Stopped, then left. Weird place to ride, I said. That direction is nothing but thick timber. Austin was already following the tracks. Look at this. The tracks went about 50 yards and then stopped. Just stopped. No turnaround. No continuation. The snow beyond was undisturbed. Where did they go? Austin said quietly. Greg laughed nervously. They had to turn somewhere. But we checked. We walked a complete circle around where the tracks ended. Nothing. It was like the machine had simply vanished. We should go, I said. My gut was screaming at me. We mounted up and headed out. I set a hard pace. The track northeast was challenging. Lots of elevation change. But I wanted distance from that camp. Around noon, we stopped for lunch. A ridgeline with a good view we could see for miles. White wilderness in every direction. Austin was checking his GPS. We're way off course, he said. What do you mean? According to this, we've been heading south, not northeast. I pulled out my own GPS. He was right. Despite following what I thought was the correct route, we'd been traveling almost due south for the last hour. Must have taken a wrong turn, I said, though I knew these trails. I'd ridden them a dozen times. Should we backtrack? Greg asked. I checked the fuel levels. No, we don't have enough. We'll adjust course. Head east from here. Intersect with the main trail. We rode for another hour. The terrain got rougher. More deadfall. Deeper powder. Several times we had to winch sleds over obstacles. Then we came over a rise and saw it. Our camp from the night before. The platform. The tent. The exact same spot we'd left that morning. No way, Austin breathed. We'd ridden in a huge circle. Somehow, despite following my GPS, despite my experience, we'd ended up back where we started. This doesn't make sense, Greg said, voice shaking now. I checked my GPS again. It showed we'd traveled 17 miles, but we were back at Camp 1. The math didn't work. We need to get out of here, I said. Forget Camp 2. We're heading back to the trailhead. That's a 4-hour ride, Austin said. I don't care. We're leaving. We turned the sleds around, headed west, retracing our route from the day before. I knew this path. I'd ridden it hundreds of times. But after 30 minutes, we came over another rise, and there it was again. Camp 1. What the fuck? Austin was near panic now. This is wrong. This is all wrong. Greg was breathing hard, eyes wide. I killed my engine. The other two did the same. We sat there in the sudden silence, just the wind and the sound of our breathing. That's when we heard the engines, multiple snowmobiles coming from different directions, getting closer, but we couldn't see anything, just the sound closing in. We need to go, I said quietly, right now. Everybody stay together. Follow me. Exactly. I started my sled, picked a direction at random, east, straight east, and I gunned it. We rode hard, through timber, over deadfall, no trail, just open throttle and momentum. Behind us, the engine sounds followed, always the same distance, never closer, never farther. I don't know how long we rode. Could have been 30 minutes, could have been hours. Time felt wrong. Then suddenly we broke out of the trees and there it was. The highway. The real highway. Traffic. Civilization. We stopped at the roadside. All three of us shaking. The engine sounds behind us stopped. Greg was crying. What was that? What the hell was that? I didn't have an answer. We loaded the sleds onto my trailer. I drove them back to the trailhead where their truck was parked. We didn't speak during the drive. At the parking lot, I refunded their money. Full refund. They didn't argue. They loaded their sleds and left. I sat in my truck for a long time, trying to understand what had happened. Eventually, I filed a report with the Forest Service. They sent someone out to check Camp 1. They found the platform, the tent, everything normal. No strange tracks, no evidence of anything unusual. But they also found something else. My cargo sled, the one I'd been pulling. It was there, at the camp, still loaded with gear, except I had my cargo sled. It was attached to my machine, on the trailer, in the parking lot. I haven't guided a trip since. Can't explain what happened. Can't rationalize it. All I know is something in those woods doesn't want people there, and it can make you ride in circles forever if it wants to. If you're ever on a winter trail and you end up somewhere you've already been, especially if your GPS says otherwise, get out. Get to a road. Don't try to figure it out. And if you hear engines that you can't see, ride faster. The wilderness is bigger than our maps show, and some places we're not meant to find our way back from. The person standing on top of the rock formation had perfect balance, which would have been impressive if humans could stand on surfaces that steep without falling. I'm a photographer, landscape work mostly. I travel around the Southwest capturing desert scenes, rock formations, sunrise and sunset shots. It's freelance work, not always steady money, but I love it. Being alone with my camera in beautiful places beats sitting in an office. This happened in November of 2023 in southern Utah. I was shooting near the Arizona border, a place called Coyote Buttes. If you know photography, you know the name. The Wave. Twisted sandstone formations in impossible colors. Red, orange, yellow, white. It's one of the most photographed locations in the world. But permits are limited, 20 people per day. Lottery system. I had applied every month for 2 years before I finally got drawn, November 15th through 17th, 3 days. I planned to make the most of it. The trailhead is about 40 miles from the nearest town, Kanab. You drive dirt roads for the last hour, four-wheel drive required. When I arrived at 0700, I was the only vehicle there. Perfect. I'd have the formations to myself for at least a few hours. I packed light, camera gear, 3 lenses, tripod, 2 gallons of water, energy bars, first aid kit, compass and map. No cell service out here. GPS coordinates marked. It's a 3-mile hike to the main formation. The desert was cold, 38 degrees. Clear sky. The sun was just starting to warm things up. I could see my breath. The trail was well marked, posts every 100 yards. The terrain was slick rock, bare sandstone, with patches of sand between formations. Beautiful country, stark, ancient. I reached the Wave around 0900. First time seeing it in person. Photos don't do it justice. The sandstone curves like frozen water. The colors are unreal. I set up my tripod and started shooting. I worked for 3 hours. Different angles, different light, moved around the formation, shot details, wide angles, vertical, horizontal. This was what I'd been waiting for. Around noon, I took a break, sat in the shade of a rock, drank water, ate a bar. That's when I noticed the person, standing on top of a rock formation about 200 yards away, just standing there, facing my direction. That struck me as odd for a couple reasons. First, that particular rock was steep, maybe 60-degree angle, smooth sandstone, no way to climb it without gear. Second, the person was perfectly still, not moving, not adjusting balance, just standing. I raised my camera, zoomed in with my telephoto lens, got a better look. It was definitely a person, or shaped like one, humanoid, but I couldn't make out details. The light was harsh, midday sun. The figure looked dark, silhouetted. I watched for maybe 5 minutes. It didn't move. I thought about calling out, but I was 200 yards away, and something about the figure made me uncomfortable. The way it stood, too still, too perfect. Eventually, I packed up my gear and moved to a different area. When I looked back, the figure was gone. I spent the afternoon shooting other formations in the permit area. Got some great shots. Around 1600, I headed back toward the trailhead. The sun was getting low, golden hour, perfect light. That's when I saw the footprints. They crossed the trail about halfway to the parking area. Barefoot prints, human-shaped, but wrong. The toes were too long, spread too far apart, and the prints were deep, like whatever made them was heavy. The sandstone showed clear impressions. I stopped, looked around. The desert was empty, silent, just wind and the distant sound of a raven. I followed the tracks with my eyes. They came from the north, crossed the trail, headed south toward a cluster of hoodoos, tall rock spires. Against my better judgment, I followed them. The tracks led between the hoodoos into a narrow canyon. The light was dim here. The rock walls blocked the sun. I had to watch my footing. The tracks continued, then stopped at a dead end. A rock wall, maybe 20 feet high. I looked up. There were handholds, narrow ledges. It looked climbable. But why would someone climb barefoot? I was about to turn back when I heard my name. Trevor. My name, clear, spoken from above, from the top of the wall. I looked up. Nothing. Just rock and sky. Trevor. Again, from above. Who's there? I called. Help me. I'm stuck. A woman's voice. Young. Scared. Where are you? Up here, please. I can't get down. I couldn't see anyone. The angle was wrong. But I could hear her. She sounded genuinely frightened. Okay, hold on. I'm coming up. I started climbing. The handholds were good. The rock was solid. I've done some climbing before. Not expert level, but comfortable enough. I was maybe 10 feet up when I heard my name again. Trevor. But this time it came from behind me. From the canyon floor. I stopped, looked down. No one there. Trevor. From above again. Trevor. From behind. Trevor. From my left. From between the hoodoos. Multiple voices now. All saying my name. All sounding like different people. Male, female, old, young. I dropped back to the ground, backed against the rock wall. The voices continued, overlapping, echoing, coming from everywhere. Then I saw them. Figures. Moving between the hoodoos. 3, 4, 5 of them. Humanoid shapes. moving wrong, jerky, like stop motion animation. They didn't approach, just circled, keeping distance, about 50 yards out. I pulled out my camera. I don't know why. Instinct, maybe. I raised it and looked through the viewfinder. Through the lens, I could see them clearly. Not human, not animal, something else. Gray skin, too tall, wrong proportions, faces that looked almost right but weren't. One of them saw me looking. It stopped, tilted its head, then opened its mouth. My name came out, Trevor, but the mouth didn't move right. The sound was wrong, like a recording. I ran straight back the way I'd come, between the hoodoos, onto the main trail. I didn't look back. I could hear them behind me, not running, just moving, making sounds. My name, other voices, laughter that wasn't quite human. I ran the full 3 miles, with camera gear, with my pack. I ran until my lungs screamed. I reached my truck at full dark, threw my gear in the back, started the engine. The headlights cut across the trailhead. Something was standing at the edge of the light, watching. It looked like me. Same jacket, same hat, same face. It waved. I put the truck in gear and drove. Fast, too fast for the dirt road. Didn't care. I needed distance. I didn't stop until I hit Kanab. Checked into a motel. Sat in the shower until the hot water ran out. The next morning I developed my photos. The landscape shots were perfect. Beautiful. Exactly what I'd hoped for. But I also had one other photo. The telephoto shot I'd taken of the figures between the hoodoos. In the photo, they weren't gray. They were covered in fur, patchy, reddish brown, and white, standing upright but clearly not human. Eyes that reflected the camera flash, even though I hadn't used a flash. I deleted it. I couldn't look at it. I still have my permit for days 2 and 3. I didn't use them. Forfeited 2 days I'd waited years to get. I still shoot landscapes, but not in remote areas, not alone. And I check every formation, every rock, every shadow before I set up my gear. If you're ever photographing alone and you see someone where they shouldn't be able to stand, don't investigate. Don't follow tracks. And if you hear your name when no one should know it, leave immediately. The desert has been there for millions of years. Whatever lives out there has been there just as long, and they know how to sound like the people you'd trust. Check your backgrounds, watch your surroundings, and never, ever follow something into a dead-end canyon, because some shots aren't worth getting. The deer walking under my tree stand moved with perfect silence, which is impossible for an animal that size in dry leaves. I'm a bow hunter. Been doing it for 15 years. Started when I was 18 in Tennessee. Worked my way up to hunting elk and mule deer out west. These days, I do most of my hunting in Colorado. Public land, high country. It's challenging, physical, exactly what I'm looking for. This happened during archery season in September of 2024. I'd drawn an elk tag for a unit north of Grand Junction, wilderness area called Flat Tops. Elevation 9,000 feet. Dense timber mixed with aspen groves and meadows. Prime elk habitat. I had been scouting the area for 2 weeks prior to the season. Found fresh sign. Rubs on trees where bulls had scraped their antlers. Wallows where they'd rolled in mud. Located a good pinch point between bedding and feeding areas. Set up my tree stand 2 days before opening day. The stand was a climbing model, strapped to a pine tree about 18 feet up. Good visibility. Overlooked a game trail that showed fresh tracks. I had also hung a trail camera on a nearby tree to monitor activity. Opening morning, I was in the stand by 05:30. Still dark. Temperature around 40 degrees. I could see my breath in my headlamp beam. I killed the light and waited for dawn. Elk are most active at dawn and dusk. The plan was to sit until 1100, take a break for lunch, then come back at 1500 for the evening sit. The forest came alive as the sun rose, ravens calling, squirrels chattering. A pine marten worked through the trees below me. Normal sounds, good signs. Around 0700, I heard elk, bugles, bulls, calling. Maybe half a mile away, they were moving. The wind was perfect, blowing from them to me. They wouldn't smell me. I readied my bow, 70-pound draw weight, carbon arrows, fixed blade broadheads, 40-yard maximum range for ethical shots. I waited. The bugles got closer. I could hear branches breaking, and then I saw movement through the aspens. Multiple animals, a herd, but they weren't elk. Deer, 8 or 9 of them, dozen fawns, moving through the timber, heading toward my stand. I relaxed. Colorado deer season hadn't started yet. I watched them come, beautiful animals, cautious but not alarmed. The lead doe passed directly under my stand, maybe 15 feet below me. I could have dropped an arrow on her. That's when I realized something was wrong. She wasn't making any noise, no crack of twigs, no rustle of leaves, complete silence, and the other deer were the same, moving through dry forest floor without sound. I leaned forward slightly, looked closer. The doe stopped, looked up, made direct eye contact with me. Deer don't do that. They might look toward movement, but direct eye contact, sustained, that's predator behavior. The doe's eyes were wrong, too aware, too focused, and it smiled. I'm not using the word loosely. The deer's mouth pulled back, lips curling, exposing teeth, and it smiled at me. I jerked back, nearly fell out of the stand, caught myself on the tree trunk. When I looked down again, the deer was normal, looking away, browsing on low vegetation. The rest of the herd was spread out, acting natural. I must have imagined it. Trick of the light. Early morning. Coffee hadn't kicked in. I convinced myself of that, until the doe spoke. Nice morning. The words came from the deer. I saw its mouth move, heard the voice clearly. Male voice, conversational tone. Beautiful up here, it continued. Peaceful. The other deer stopped moving. All of them looking up at me now. All of them with that same wrong awareness in their eyes. We've been watching you, the doe said. 2 weeks of scouting. Very thorough. Very prepared. My hands were shaking. I still had my bow. Arrow knocked. But I couldn't move. You picked a good tree, another deer said. A younger doe. Female voice this time. High enough to see. Low enough to shoot. How many have you killed? A third deer. Fawn. Child's voice. From stands like this. The lead doe again. How many? I found my voice. What are you? The lead doe tilted its head. The movement was wrong. Too far. Like an owl. We're what watches. It said. What walks. Where you hunt. What knows your patterns. This is my land. I managed. The deer laughed. All of them. A chorus of human laughter from animal throats. Your land, the lead doe said. You think you own the forest. You think the animals are yours to take. I follow the regulations. I respect. Respect. The doe stepped closer to the tree, looked straight up. You sit in a tree, wait for us to walk beneath you, and you call that respect. It's hunting, it's natural. Natural. The doe's body started to change. Subtle at first, the legs elongating, the spine shifting. Want to see natural. I didn't want to see. I closed my eyes. Look at us, the voice commanded. I couldn't help it. I looked. The deer weren't deer anymore. They stood upright, bipedal, humanoid bodies covered in patchy fur, deer heads on human frames, hooves that had split into something like hands. This is natural, the lead one said. We've been here longer than your kind, walking these forests, watching. What do you want? I was crying now. Couldn't help it. We want you to understand. It reached up, touched the tree. Its reach was impossible. The tree stand was 18 feet up, but its arm extended, stretched, touched the platform. This is our home. You are a guest, and guests can be removed. The tree started to shake. All of them were pushing on it. The pine trunk groaning, my stand swaying. Next time you come here, the lead one said, bring respect, bring gratitude, bring offerings, or don't come at all. The shaking stopped. The creature stepped back, and then they changed again, back to deer, normal deer. They turned and walked away, single file, disappearing into the timber, making sound now, normal sound, cracking branches, rustling leaves. I sat in that stand until noon, couldn't make myself climb down, couldn't process what had happened. Eventually I descended, legs shaking. I grabbed my trail camera, took it with me, didn't look back. At my truck I checked the SD card, reviewed the footage from the past 2 days. The camera had caught me setting up the stand, had caught me leaving, had caught me returning that morning, but it also caught something else. Multiple times, at night, figures moving through the frame, upright, wrong, inspecting the stand, touching it, circling it, and in one frame, clear as day, the lead one, looking directly at the camera, smiling with too many teeth. I turned in my tag unfilled, told the wildlife officer I'd had a family emergency. He didn't ask questions. I haven't hunted from a tree stand since. Maybe I won't ever again. If I do, I'll do what they said. Leave offerings, tobacco, maybe, food, something to show I understand I'm a visitor. Because the forest isn't empty, it's full. And the things that live there are older and stranger than we give them credit for. If you hunt from elevation, from stands or blinds, pay attention to the animals below you. If they act wrong, if they seem too aware, if they stop making sound, get down, get out. Don't wait to see what happens next. And maybe, just maybe, leave a little something behind. A token of respect, a recognition that you're not the only hunter in the woods. The old ways knew this. The traditions that came before guns and scopes and trail cameras, they understood. We forgot, but we can remember. Stay humble out there. And if something tells you to leave, listen. The missing hiker we found kept insisting she'd already been rescued 3 hours before we arrived. I'm a search and rescue volunteer, have been for 7 years. I work for the county sheriff's office in Western Washington. We get called out for missing hikers, lost children, overdue climbers. It's volunteer work. We don't get paid, but it's rewarding when we bring someone home safe. This happened in October of 2023. Saturday afternoon, we got a call about a missing woman, a solo hiker, 42 years old. Name was Linda Morrison. She had told her husband she was doing a day hike on the Pacific Crest Trail, said she'd be back by 1600. When she wasn't back by 1900, he called us. Our team assembled at the trailhead by 2000, 8 of us. We had our usual gear, radios, GPS units, first aid kits, headlamps. The sheriff's deputy in charge was a guy named Sullivan, veteran coordinator. He'd run maybe 200 searches. Sullivan briefed us on the situation. Linda was experienced, had proper gear, had told her husband which trail segment she'd be hiking, a 12-mile out and back. Her car was in the parking lot. Keys still in her pocket per her husband. She'd entered the trail but hadn't come out. Standard grid search, Sullivan said. We'll work north from the trailhead. Pairs. Radio contact every 15 minutes. If you find anything, call it in immediately. Don't investigate alone. I was paired with a woman named Beth. She'd been doing SAR longer than me. Former paramedic, solid partner. Beth and I took the western grid, about a quarter-mile west of the main trail. Dense forest, Douglas fir, and western hemlock. Thick understory. Visibility about 30 feet. We moved slowly, calling Linda's name, sweeping our lights, looking for any sign, broken branches, fabric caught on bushes, footprints. Around 2200, Beth found something. Over here. A protein bar wrapper, torn open, recent. It was the same brand that Linda's husband said she carried. Grid 4 to base. Beth radioed. We've got evidence. Protein bar wrapper. Coordinates north, 47.8. West 1 to 1.3. Copy grid 4, Sullivan responded. Continue search pattern. We moved deeper into the forest. The terrain got rougher. Deadfall. Steep slopes. Heavy brush. My radio crackled. All units. Grid 2 has found a day pack. Appears to match description. Coordinates north, 47.81. West, 121.28. That was close. Maybe 100 yards east of us. Beth and I adjusted course. We found Grid 2 at a small clearing. Two guys, Rod and Tanner. They were standing over a purple day pack. Linda's husband had said she carried a purple pack. Anything inside? Beth asked. Rod opened it. Water bottle, map, phone, dead battery. Looks like she dropped it and kept going. Which direction? Tanner pointed north. Fresh broken branches that way. She was moving fast. We followed. All four of us now. The broken branches were obvious. Someone had pushed through recently. Running maybe, or stumbling. Then we heard it. A voice. Female. Calling for help. That's her, Rod said. Linda, where are you? Here. I'm here. Help me. The voice came from ahead. Maybe 50 yards. We moved toward it, breaking into a jog, our lights bouncing. We found her in a ravine, about 10 feet down, a steep slope. She was sitting against a tree, one leg extended, blood on her forehead, but conscious. Linda, Beth called down. We're search and rescue. Are you hurt? My ankle? I think it's broken. And I hit my head. Beth and I descended carefully. Loose soil, easy to slip. We reached her. I'm Beth. This is Kyle. We're here to help. Can you tell me what happened? Linda looked confused. You already helped me. You got me out. We walked back. No, ma'am. We just arrived. You've been missing since this afternoon. That's not right. The rescue team found me hours ago. Two men. They helped me climb out. We were walking back to the trailhead, but then she trailed off, looking around, disoriented. But then what? I asked. I don't know. I was following them, and then I was back here in the ravine. Beth checked her pupils. Possible concussion. We need to get her stabilized and evac. Rod radioed for the litter team. More SAR members would bring a stretcher. We'd carry her out. While we waited, I asked Linda more questions. These men, who helped you? Did you see them clearly? What did they look like? They were wearing orange vests, like yours. They had radios and lights. They knew my name. We were wearing orange SAR vests. Standard gear. But we'd only learned her name from the briefing an hour ago. Did they tell you their names? I don't remember. It's fuzzy. They were nice, Very helpful. They kept saying everything would be okay. Which direction did you go when you were following them? Linda pointed north, that way, toward the trail. I remember walking for a while, and then nothing. Beth finished her assessment. Broken ankle, mild concussion, dehydration, but stable. The litter team arrived and we got Linda secured. 6 of us carried her out. Took 90 minutes. Rough terrain. We reached the trailhead around midnight. Ambulance was waiting. Linda's husband was there, crying, hugging her. Back at the command post, Sullivan debriefed us. Good work, everyone. Successful rescue. She's going to be fine. But something bothered me. Sir, can I ask you something? Go ahead. When did we get the call about Linda being missing? Husband called it in at 1900. We assembled by 2000. Why? And no other teams were searching before us. No, we were first response. What's this about? I explained what Linda had said about the men in orange vests who'd rescued her hours earlier, who'd known her name, who'd led her somewhere and then she'd ended up back in the ravine. Sullivan's expression darkened. She probably imagined it. Concussion can cause confusion, maybe, but she was very specific. 2 men, SAR gear. They talked to her, helped her climb out. Kyle, there's no one else out here. We were the only team. I nodded, but I couldn't shake the feeling. The next day I went back, daylight, with Beth. We hiked to where we'd found Linda, examined the ravine, looked for signs of anyone else. What we found made my blood cold. Tracks, multiple sets, leading to the ravine from the north. The impressions were clear in the soft soil, but they weren't boot prints. They were bare feet, human-shaped, but wrong. The toes too long, the heel too narrow, and they were deep. Whatever made them was heavy. The tracks circled the ravine multiple times, then led away, north, deep into the forest. We followed them for about 100 yards. Then they stopped at a cluster of old growth cedar. The tracks just ended. What made these? Beth whispered. I don't know. We looked up. The cedar trees were massive, trunks 8 feet across, but there, maybe 30 feet up, we could see them. Platforms, built from branches and moss, crude but deliberate, and on one of the platforms, drag marks. Something had been pulled up there, something the size of a person. We need to report this, Beth said. Report what? That we found weird tracks and what? Tree houses. Something was out here with us last night. Something that wasn't human. We hiked back, told Sullivan what we'd found. He organized a team. They went back to the Cedar Grove, examined the site. Official reports said the tracks were bare. The platforms were old hunting blinds. Natural explanations. But Sullivan pulled me aside after. Between you and me, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've seen things out here that don't fit in reports. Things that can't be explained. What do you think they are? I think there's something in these forests that mimics us, that imitates rescue workers, lures people deeper. I don't know why. Maybe it feeds on confusion or fear. Maybe it just enjoys the game. What happened to Linda? How did she end up back in the ravine? My guess, they led her somewhere, realized we were coming, dumped her back where we'd find her. Didn't want us searching deeper. Should we warn people? Warn them about what that monsters pretend to be SAR volunteers? No one would believe us, and it would cause panic. Linda recovered, broken ankle healed, concussion resolved, but she insisted for months that someone had rescued her before we arrived. Eventually she stopped talking about it. Her husband said she'd accepted it was a hallucination, but I know what we found. I know those tracks were real. Now, when we do searches, I pay attention differently. I look for signs that aren't quite right. Listen for voices that sound off. Watch for movement that doesn't match human patterns. And if you're ever lost in the woods and someone comes to help you, someone in rescue gear who knows your name, ask them questions. Verify they're real. Radio to confirm, because not everything wearing an orange vest is human. And if they lead you deeper into the forest, away from trails, away from civilization, stop, turn around, find your own way out. Sometimes the rescue is the trap.